Hello, hello, hello. We may be having
I
volume
got people
issues.
that can't hear us.
It should be better now. Can you guys
Okay.
check and see? Let us know
Let
before
us
we
know if
go
you can
on.
hear us.
Let us know before we go on if you guys can hear us now.
Can you give us a thumbs up, a like, a heart, something?
Let us know, and then we will continue. We will continue, but it should be okay now. It should be okay, I think, if I'm seeing correctly on my screen. But at any rate, so this little church had this sign out there, and I had to pull over the car, and I had to, yes, we can hear now, Jamad? We're good? Okay. So it had this sign, and I had to pull over and call Donna, and I said, this is a good message. I said, we need to talk about this. So for me, especially when, for those of us who, and we talked for a minute about this before the show, for those of us that are fixers, that we need to heal the whole world and everybody in it, it can be hard sometimes because our messages often fall on deaf ears. And so for me, this message really hit home because it told me that I need to be using discernment in who I'm expecting or who I'm sharing my messages with, because we have some people who are ready in their lives to hear it, other people who are have no clue, they're not ready to hear it at all, and then we have the other crew who this message in particular is talking about, and that's someone who is aware of what you're saying but they don't want to hear it. That it's that word pretending to be asleep. Jamad, what do you think about this?
Well, I'm not going to wake anybody up who just needs a nap. That's just how I see it. You know what? Because generally when you're pretending to be asleep, you kind of just want to rest. So sometimes I think, especially if we're going to make this spiritual, that when someone's pretending to not know, it's really because they can't handle it right now, or they really just feel that they can't handle it right now. So if you're pretending to be asleep, enjoy. When you want to wake up, holla at me.
Well, I think also part of it is depending on how you grew up as well. Is if you grew up in such a, like, let's just say, this doesn't exist, and then all of a sudden you've got that, okay, now you're learning that this exists, like this other part of you, this whatever, but then you're caught in between, and you're like, okay, I know this happens, but because of how I was brought up, I'm going to pretend that I don't know about this part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, I think, with my background as a therapist, I still have all that somebody needs to come to me and ask for that assistance before I'm going to give somebody assistance. So I might know how to help them, but if they're not requesting it, for me, that's not being respectful. So I want to respect them, and when they're ready, they'll, I might share with them what I'm capable of. When they're ready, they'll ask, but not until then.
Well, I know I'm finding out with my client, the deeper that they're going into their spiritual journey, and they're getting into that uncomfortableness for them, I'm finding that's when they kind of pull back. And I'm also discovering, like Jamad said, they're not quite ready for that next push just yet. So there's other things that we can do to help, but not necessarily wake up. But just, these are your tools that you have right now. Keep working those, because after a while, that'll make it easier and easier. But like Heather said, we do have this belief system too that's also, as we get older, is being challenged. And that's another reason to kind of go, oh my gosh, what do you mean this wasn't the way I thought it was all these years? And so that kind of makes us want to pretend to be asleep as well sometimes, because we're not ready for that piece of information. So what do you think, Jessica?
So I'm curious, all of us here on the panel today are all entrepreneurs in some kind of way. And I'm curious to know how you kind of feel that out with somebody. Like, at what level are they at? Do you just have conversations with them? How do you know that someone is ready and there to hear your message? Because obviously we can't, like, if we're in business, we can't just sit back and do nothing and go, well, whoever comes to me will come to me. We have to put ourselves out there in some kind of way. So how do we know that someone is ready to receive the messages that we're trying to send?
Part of it, don't you think, is the people that resonate with us. If we're putting stuff out there, we're putting stuff out there on Facebook, we're putting stuff out there in blogs and books and all this. So the people that contact me, like I have an option to contact me for a strategy session. The people that contact me, generally, I find, are resonating with what I've said. And so that gives me a clue that at least there's some level of readiness for what I have to offer.
I think it's also the fact of those who want to challenge you in, let's say, a thread. So it's not your group, it's not whatever, let's say it's on social media. And they're, you give your answer, and then there's a challenge underneath. And it's kind of like they're interested in what you do, but they want to know, okay, do they really know what they're doing? Do they really, is this somebody that whatever? So you kind of watch, because I've seen that. Like, I've, been in a thread where I've seen, somebody answer a question, then I'll answer a question, and then somebody kind of goes on my answer and goes, okay, but then later on, all of a sudden they're contacting me. Because it takes us, what do we say? It takes us, like, how many interactions with you before they'll actually
a lot.
Right. Yeah.
A lot. Way too many now.
Yes. I agree.
I generally go by the rule, my bad, Donna. I generally go by the rule, embrace those who embrace you. So, I mean, if you want to stay asleep, if you want to really engage, if you really want to change your life, if you're really embracing what I'm teaching and what I'm saying, you know, I'm going to give you my energy. I'm going to give you my time. I'm not really going to spend a lot of time trying to embrace people who are not trying to embrace.
Yeah, and I'm right with you on that one now. I mean, I used to be very much just trying to, like I said, I was embracing my Aquariusness. Jamad knows what I'm talking about here, about trying to help all the people. You know, we just want everybody to be happy and to be well and be joyful and all these things. And so I wanted to talk to everybody. I wanted to fix everybody. I wanted everybody to hear my message. And when someone didn't want to, or wasn't in the place to, I would be like, but why? Why?
And I felt like
I'm not
too.
saying anything wrong. Yeah. And so now, like, I'm much more, I love what Lori said about our messaging that we're putting out there too, you know, attracting the right people to us. Now I focus on what I'm putting out there, making sure that I'm having the people that I want to come my way, but then not get all riled up if they're not ready. Like Jamad said, they just might be trying to take a nap. Like, I'll just leave them alone for a little while.
Right. And I was the same way. In the very, very beginning, I kept thinking, but I can help you. Why don't you want to hear what I have to say? But now I fill them out, and I kind of figure out where they are in their level, and we kind of work from there. And it's made my life a lot easier. I don't feel as overwhelmed at trying to help everybody getting my feelings hurt. Because I was getting my feelings hurt because I kept thinking, I can help you, but you don't want me to help you, and I'm confused because you contacted me. And so it took me a little while to figure out that there are levels, and just because they're ready for this level doesn't mean they're ready for the next level when I think they should be ready, because we're going to go when we're ready, not when somebody thinks we should be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have time to ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do y'all do? Because I know that I try my best not to attach myself to clients' results, right? Especially when you have a client that's really kind of dragging their feet. Like, what do y'all do when they're trying to be sleep?
I think for me, and I think can you guys see my screen frozen right now?
Yeah.
Well,
yes.
Okay, as long as you can hear me. Listen, we knew that for the next couple of I can't even talk now. Episodes now, we are in Mercury retrograde, so what happens is going to happen, and that's just is what it is right now.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I think for me, I mean, I just kind of, I go back to like basic sales things that I was taught a long time ago, which is to have lists. And so if someone's not hearing the message, it doesn't mean that I have to like cut them out of my life or not talk to them, but just kind of, you know, they're just on a different list in my mind, you know, they're just, they're in a different space. And so am I going to focus energy on them and teaching them and doing, no, I focus my energy more on the people that I know are ready and are listening for the message. So I don't know if that answers your question. I was all.
Well, let's talk about a client though. This is a client. It just seems like they're just.
So Jamad, are you asking like if once it gets to a certain level, how do you keep going, or is that, do you let them go? Is that what you're asking?
Well, you kind of inspired the question, because I was sitting there like, okay, when you have a client that's just not doing the work,
right,
and they're not getting the results,
I break up.
Or you can coach them through what's stopping them from doing the work. There's resistance there. So for me, when that happens, that's the perfect coaching moment to coach them through what's going on with them that's creating that resistance, so that if they're ready to move forward, they have the opportunity. So I think as coaches, when we run up across something, it really just is a great opportunity to keep coaching.
Right.
Awesome.
I know I come up with that a lot, yeah. So
and I've had several clients that's worked great for, and then I've had a couple just recently that just put the brakes on and just like slammed them and was like, no, I don't want to do this. And so I gave them the choice. I was like, we can either keep working together or I need to kind of put my energy somewhere else. And just because they just weren't ready. They just weren't ready. And I told them, I said, when you are ready, you know how to find me, come back. You know, I'll be more than happy to work with you at that point. But I think you have to really listen to your client, and as you're coaching them and as you're doing the coaching process to try to help them work through that situation, you kind of have to listen to what they're not saying as well as what they are saying.
Mm-hmm. It's a good topic, guys. It's a good topic. Awesome insight from everybody, and we would love to hear from you as well. What do you think about this topic? Give us your comments below. Give us your experiences below. I would like to move in now to our very special guest today and go ahead and bring him on. His name, as I mentioned, is Miha Matlievski. He's coming to us from across the pond. It's later on at night there, and he is what is called a fail coach. And so we're going to get to hear a little bit from him, what that means, and of course his breakthrough moment. So everybody, please give us some hearts, give us some likes, and welcome our friend Miha to the show today. Hello, welcome. We are so glad that you're here.
Hey, everybody. And yeah, listening to you guys, I was thinking about how I do what I do. Because failure is a huge taboo, and not everybody is ready. I mean, if you live in cities like Chicago, LA, Berlin, and so on, where there's a lot of that hype, fail forward, failure is okay, then that's okay. But for most places throughout Asia, Europe, America, failure is still a huge taboo. And I actually wrote down while I was listening to you guys. So I started, and this is something that I devote, let's say, most of my time to, is to just teach people about it, and doing it in a way that I can leverage my time as much as possible. Either that's through free group, conferences, podcasts, and so on. So in that way, I can reach as many people as possible. And then the ones that are ready reach out to you. Now you need to figure out how to pre-qualify them in a way so that you know how ready they are, how hungry they are, how ready, committed, and so on. And then, yeah, you focus on the ones that are most ready to be helped. That's how I do what I do. Because you can't help somebody who is completely not ready to be helped.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that I appreciate you chiming in on that too, because I think that for someone like in your work with being comfortable with even using the word failure, I think is a pre-qualifier in itself right there. So thank you so much for chiming in on that as well. But we would love to get back. Let's take us back, Miha, to, because you're a fail coach, but your breakthrough moment is about failure in your own life. So I would love for you to start us out today by taking us on a little journey about the time in your life before the failure took place. What all was happening with you?
Yeah, sure. So I've been an entrepreneur, or what people like to say serial entrepreneur, for the past 22 years. And I started out when I was just 18. And before I was 30, I've created 4 very successful companies. My personal net worth was around 15 million US. And then basically overnight it happened, but it was, I've done quite a lot of mistakes, quite a lot of failures prior to that moment. That was just the culmination of everything coming together. Overnight, I went down to minus $5 million US in personal debt. And in Europe, it's not as easy as in the United States to declare personal bankruptcy. Because my companies defaulted and because all that happened overnight, I couldn't pay out the last paycheck to the employees. I couldn't pay for the last month to the government for the taxes. And those 2 things, if you miss them, there is no way for you to do personal bankruptcy. So fast forward a few years and I had to repay the whole thing with interest and everything. But let's go back to that 2009. And so first I went into huge depression. I was like experiencing permanent anxiety, huge levels of stress, and everything was just darkness. Outside of me, inside of me, you know, like there was no tunnel, there was no light on the other side of the tunnel. I had no idea if I'm gonna survive, let alone having some goals or dreams or something. That was completely unimaginable. And the worst thing was that I was blaming everybody but self. So, you know, like my ex-business partners, my friends, the economy, everything, like basically everything but myself. And then let's fast forward a little bit. And it was in the second half of 2010 when the thought of suicide was closer and closer and closer. And why that happened was because, you know, when you are under such stress and depression and anxiety, your head is like constant nuclear reactor. You just can't stop it. And all you want is a little bit of silence, a little bit of peace, and you can't get that. You know, every morning you wake up to phone calls from people you owe money to. Because I didn't end up owing to just one bank. I owed like to half of our country. Or at least it felt that way. And, you know, like those phone calls, they were not nice phone calls. If somebody said, oh, I'm going to sue you, well, that was a blessing. You know, most of the phone calls were much harder in the wording. So when you go through that, all you want is just some peace and quiet. And that's how the idea of suicide was feeling like, oh, you know, like I do that. It might hurt for a second or 10 seconds or whatever, but then it's that eternal peace and quietness. And because of that, it was so appealing. And when I came to the final act, I was on my balcony, stepping over the fence, looking down. Well, the thought that was going in my head at that point was, will I do this right? Or will I end up being on a wheelchair? But at that moment, I actually said to myself, and I did that in English, like, you fucking failed. Mm-hmm. I can't say it any differently, I'm sorry. I don't normally use the F word unnecessarily, but at that moment, that was what I said to myself. And the aha moment or the breakthrough was the word you. Mm-hmm. Because in like an instance, everything became clear. Like, I didn't go to the right lawyer. I decided not to hire, I don't know, tax advisor or better accountant or this or that, or I didn't say no to this. I didn't stand up to my business partner. All those things were my fault. And you know, as much as it hurt at that moment, it was so empowering, because if it's all my fault, I can learn from it, I can grow from it, and I can do it better next time. Mm. And that was what motivated me. I can do it again. I got all my visions back. I got all my dreams back and everything. And I was fired as hell. And then I stayed up whole night. I made that huge list of things that I need to change, because, yeah, I made so many mistakes and I had to learn so much. I mean, it almost felt like a whole toilet paper of to-dos. But in the morning, I started calling people, and I was like, you know what? If killing me will make you happy, like, go ahead. I don't care. I really don't care. But if you want your money back, and I'm not owing you guys like a few $1,000s so I can just get a job. I mean, I need to create something huge to repay all that. And just leave me alone. I'll call you once a month. I'll give you an update, but leave me alone. I need my peace. I need my quiet. I need to work on things. And that's how the whole journey then started in the second half of 2010. And it took me 3.5 years to really learn all the lessons, to grow personally, And then at the start of 2014, it was on Valentine's Day, February 14th, Friday, I found an investor. We created a company, a new startup, and I scaled that company from 0 to multiple 8 figures a month in less than a year. So in November 2014, our revenue was for that month was in US dollars about 50 million US dollars.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, just to give you a little bit of perspective, it was an energy efficiency startup. So you are helping huge companies save money on energy. So just, for the numbers to make sense, because you can't scale, I don't know, like a copywriting business to multiple 8 figures. Yeah, I mean, when I leave this part about the energy efficiency, people get like, oh, that's not possible. But, our business model was sharing the savings. And so if a company spends like hundreds of millions a year on energy and you save them 30% and you get half of that, then those numbers quickly make sense. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that startup was the result of 3 years working on it, preparing it. And then the whole scalability happened in a way that I could take myself out of the company in the end, exit the company successfully without being, locked in a way. Because one thing that's really, really, really important is you have to stop working in your company ASAP. I mean, yes, in the beginning, you need to put in the extra hours. You need to start that momentum, but as soon as you can, you need to start working on the company and not in the company. If you keep working in the company, you just got yourself a second job, and you will never achieve that freedom and make that impact that entrepreneurs crave so much. Because I did so many researches with entrepreneurs, they all want two things: freedom and making an impact or leaving a legacy. That's what they want. And you can't do that if you're working in the company. So after the exit, a lot of companies and entrepreneurs started approaching me, asking me, how you did that, and one thing led to another. So yeah, I became a coach, a mentor, an advisor. And at one moment when I was trying to figure out what my brand should be, a friend of mine said, well, you learned everything from your past failures. Why don't you be a fail coach? And then I went online and I started Googling these domain names, and I didn't know that now you can have .coach domain name, and fail.coach, it was free. I took it, and yeah, I never looked back on it. That's who I am. And if you go on Google and type in fail coach, I'm the only one you'll get. So yeah, I hope it was not too long, but that's, let's say, a shorter version of the whole story.
Okay, so as a fail coach, what does that look like? Like if I came to you, and I'm assuming I've had a lot of failures, so I'm looking for somebody to help me get out of the failure situation. So what would that look like if I called you up and said, I need a fail coach, help me?
Yeah. That's a good question, and the answer is very simple, to be honest. The thing is that failure is good. When you fail, that means you're trying things for the first, second time, you're pushing the borders, you're pushing yourself out of the comfort zone, you're actually going for your dreams, for your goals. So you should fail. Having healthy relationship with failure is very important. So we would probably do a lot of work on setting up the right foundation, or how I sometimes call it brainwashing yourself for success. So when you start embracing failure, so the failure is just things happening to us. Somebody can view same thing as a success, and another person will view it as a failure. It's our definitions, but it's our actually reactions, negative emotional reactions, that go into a downward spiral. And then there are a lot of techniques that you can use, like planning for failure, having a failure journal, being mindful, and so on, that will help you completely step out of that emotions that overwhelm you in that moment, And if you plan for failure, that's something that I do with businesses when we are creating business plan. We plan failure. A huge chapter of business plan is planning for failure, because then when failure happens, bam, you have a plan. You don't go into emotions. You have a plan. You just go and execute it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do. I mean, I do help them, like grow, scale, and all those techniques, and get them in front of investors and so on. But yeah, most of the work is on the foundations, because you can't start building the house at the second floor. You need to have the right foundations as an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you can go to 7, you can go to 8 figures, but sooner or later, everything will just fall on you.
Mm-hmm. Now, I have a question. With somebody that comes to you because, they failed, they did whatever, when does a failure become one of those things where you look at it and you see, you know what, it's time to actually let it go? Like, it's time to, this failure has, yes, you've learned the lessons, and yes, whatever, but let's pivot to something else. Like, when do you see that? Like, how often do you see that? And then how do you recognize that?
Well, most of the time, you see it from how they react when you're talking about that subject. If they're all jumpy, if they're all like, you can see they still want to kill that person who they blame or something. You see it when you hear complete acceptance, how they describe it. And I'm putting my clients through a lot of writing exercises, different ones, and like, you just read what they do, and you ask them like very different questions, but questions that they can't, open-ended questions where they can't tell you what you're expecting to hear, because there is no intention behind them, but you get them. Like, one good thing is those 36 questions to fall in love. I take quite a few questions from that questionnaire, because they're so nice questions. Like, how can you answer it in a way that you would impress me if I ask you who would you invite for a dinner? Like, you just honestly answer it, but that can tell you so much about that person. So yeah, having those questions, and then just one important thing is, yes, they will tell you a lot of stuff, but you need to be very careful to watch if they walk the talk.
So I have a real brief question. So what did you learn through all this that impacted your life the most? Because I'm very intrigued by this story. I don't know a lot of $50 million people.
The biggest impact was being okay with failure, being okay with failing. I mean, I don't even use the word failure anymore. For me, everything is just try and learn. And like I said, there are many ways how you can do it in a smarter way. You hire a coach. Like, when I started my online business, yes, I could go and do a lot of trial and error. But there are coaches who have done what I want to do. Like, just hire them. They tell you the steps. You just need to learn how to create relationships. That's one thing that I always say to people. No matter whether that's picking up your husband or wife or a friend or where you want to work or your business partners, if it's a long-term relationship, don't treat it as a one-night stand, which means go on a few dates, ask a few good questions, have a few glasses of wine, because people change after a little bit of alcohol, and watch if they walk the talk. And that's how you create good relationships, and see if you share values, if you share priorities, if you share some goals and so on. And then it's easy to pick the right people.
So I love it. You're talking my language because you're talking about relationships. So okay. as you're talking, I was thinking about, we all are going to experience failures, whether we consider them failures or not. And we have to learn to bounce back from those things. So maybe just share with us one of the techniques or one of the pieces of advice you give people about how to bounce back quickly so that it doesn't derail them from their business, their life.
Two things that are really important and that I teach people. are emotional intelligence, because that one helps you figure out when it's a good time to use emotions and when it's good time to use logic. And then the second one is just being mindful. Especially when you're a little bit older, you went through a lot of stuff already. So being mindful just takes away that reaction to the moment, because it's almost like you sitting on the sofa watching your life going on in the television. And what that helps you is you don't fire up with these huge emotions, so you can just think a little bit, like, oh, has something like this already happened? What did I do? Oh, maybe this time I can try something new. And then it's a combination of a few things, like failure journal. Just anytime something that you consider a failure happens to you, just write it down, leave it for a few days, and then after a few days, again, when emotions wear off, ask yourself good questions, like, could I done anything differently? What if I tried this in that scenario? And with all that, you are building this huge database of experiences that you can apply next time when something similar starts happening to you. And the older you get, the more full of experiences you are, and just use them wisely. It's all about that. So when something happens to you, you have the choice to either start thinking, oh, what can I learn from it? How can I apply some of the old knowledge? Or how can I do something differently? Or you can go in, oh, poor me, why doesn't God love me? And so on. Ain't gonna help.
Mm-hmm. I would love to go into, we had one of my friends, Elaine, had asked a question yesterday on one of the images for the show. And she said she asked if you could touch on the fear of failure a little bit and how that can sabotage people. I know that we've talked a lot about what happens when you do fail or when you realize failure, but I think it's important to note how sometimes people can get caught up in just this fear that something bad is going to happen, and then they don't even get started. Maybe you could talk just for a few minutes about that.
Well, my core belief is that whatever you're doing in life, and that's one of the first things when entrepreneurs start working with me, is figuring out what comes from their heart, what they're truly passionate about. Because you can apply business model to basically anything. Like just a few weeks ago, I had my 40th birthday, and one friend of mine, she went on Fiverr and bought a video of this old guy with a banana, and he makes like a prank call saying, hey Miha, happy birthday. And that guy charges, I think, $20, and he has more than 1,000 positive reviews for that. And you can't give a review if you haven't bought it. So we don't know how many above 1,000 he has, but even just with 1,000, he made 20K with that, just doing that. So there is basically nothing you can't turn into business. So instead of you trying to figure out what's the best business to do or something like that, like, let's turn the tables around. Let's figure out what you're really passionate about, what really makes you going, because then it's so much easier to push past those experiences and push past fear of failure. But then the second thing that I work with them on is developing healthy relationship with failure. I've done that with sales teams as well, for big corporations, because people are just afraid of failure. And sometimes you can just use numbers, or like be focused on the process, not on the outcome, and things like that we hear all the time. You just need to repeat them. Like sometimes a stupid thing like creating a reminder in your phone that says be focused on the process, not on the outcome, and setting it up to go every half an hour throughout the day, just to reset you every time, can be a great experience of becoming mindful about that thing. And believe me, after a month of those reminders popping every half an hour on your phone, things start to change within you, and you start looking at things much differently.
So you've gone backwards and then you've gone forwards. What's next for you? What's next for me? I feel like you've covered all the things. What's next for you?
Well, the thing that I'm most passionate about is my Failures Anonymous project. And it's empowering people to raise their voices, to speak openly up about their failures. And we don't just name the failures. We go really deep into those interviews, into emotions, into negative self-talk, and then the bouncing back and all that. But the idea behind it is to empower even more people to speak about it, because failure is a taboo. And 30, 40 years ago, sex was a taboo. It's not anymore. I mean, anywhere you go, even to McDonald's, people speak very freely about it. That made me think, like, how did that happen? And it was by talking about it. And so I'm just traveling the world, or, being guest here and there, talking about failure. And almost every time, I would say, somebody reaches out to me, is ready to share their story, and so on. And I'm just about that. Getting people to talk about failure, because once you get it out, it's so healing. It's the thing that we are programmed not to talk about failure, because that's a bad thing. And then when you keep it inside, you get that feeling almost like when you have constipation. It's around stomach, and it's almost like something is bottling you up. And when you start talking about it, it's better and better. So yeah, failure is what I want to tackle, and I don't know, I want to be the one who breaks the taboo called failure. That's my mission.
Awesome. All right, Miha, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, let's do this first. If you could leave people with just one single piece of advice today, what would you leave them with?
The same thing I always say is stay humble, be grateful, and fail forward.
I love that. Everybody put that down in the comments. Let's get that out a little bit here. Stay humble, be grateful, and fail forward. Everybody give us some of that in the comments, because sometimes when we hear it and we say it and we write it, it gets it nice and ingrained in our beings, right? So, Miha, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how can they learn more about your Failures Anonymous and working with you and all of that?
Well, the best way they can do on Facebook is just message me on my private profile. That's the easiest way. And if they want to talk more about failure and failure in business, then I have that free group, the Fail Forward Nation. I just started it like maybe 2-3 months ago, but it's nicely growing, and we are opening different interesting subjects on the topic of failure and entrepreneurship.
Awesome. Well, we are so thankful that you were able to come chat with us today. Your story is incredible. And I think that so many people have not even touched the things that you have done and have felt like a failure. So I think your story is inspiring, but it's also very timely for a lot of people right now who are experiencing a lot of change and transition in their lives, and who feel like, I don't even know if I'm doing the right thing moment to moment. And so I love the work that you're doing in allowing people to embrace that failure and see it as a good thing. So thank you so much for being here today, and I appreciate you.
Just one quick thing.
Sure.
Those numbers are huge for most people, but it's not about the numbers. I've met people who lost way less than I did, but the same emotions were there, and so it's so much more about emotions. And the numbers just get me on podcasts and because they're big enough, so they get the attention. But so in a way, I'm very lucky that I failed at such a huge level, because that gets me the possibility to now speak about it. But it's all about the emotions behind it. So it was lovely being here. Thanks for the opportunity. Chat later.
Awesome, awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much. We are going to move into now to our roundtable discussion, and I am going to take just a minute here and get us situated on this side of things. Donna, what did you think about Miha's story?
Incredible. And I like that he kept harping on, it's not the numbers, it's the emotion, because that's my passion, and that's what I do with my clients, because we all know that the emotion, you can do everything right, but the emotion sitting there is not going to help drive you forward, whether it's in business, health, or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I really love that he kept touching on the emotional piece of it. And then just the fact that, he had so much, and he's such a humble guy. You know? Yeah. Most people you see in those arenas aren't as humble as he is, and so that was a real joy. Mm. What did you think, Heather, of his story?
I think it was very entertaining that he got to that point where he was blaming everyone, but and it wasn't until he's like, "This is my responsibility." Mm. Like, this is me. That was the part that's like, how many of us see within our businesses where, it's this person's fault, or it's this person's fault, or even when you've done it yourself, and then it's not until you get to that point, you're like, wait, it was my choices that got me to this point. Mm-hmm. How can I choose differently? And that's exactly how it went. How can I choose differently? What can I do now? Switching over from the you to the now it's me, making it about them, and knowing that it is every day you made that choice, right. And this is where your choices led you to, and now it's going to lead me to somewhere else, because I know that I'm learning lessons from this big fit. Like, his was a lot bigger than I'm sure most of ours, so but we're hoping to never get to that point, but knowing that there is somebody out there that is helping people with this, and like he said, he wants to make this a global thing. I definitely think it is needed, right. For sure.
Yeah, I do love the fact that he has the Fell Forward Nation group. I think that is awesome, and to get the word out and to let us talk about failure, because he's right. A lot of us have been programmed that you don't talk about what you're not good at or what you failed in life with, and so for him to give that platform to say, hey, it's okay. Let's talk about what happened, what these failures were. How can we turn that around? How can we look at it differently? How can we change it? So I thought that was really neat. What were your thoughts, Jamad?
Well, I loved how he mentioned about the emotions, because I know if I lost $5, I'm going to feel that. So my thing about it is, I thought it was really beautiful how he said we have to change our relationship with failure. And I think even that emotional relationship with failure, because now, especially me going strong in my business for these last couple years, it's I don't even know what failure is. It's either I'm getting blessings or lessons, and lessons are lessons too, okay? So that's how I fail forward. I just keep rolling with the lessons. So I'm glad that he's really helping people change their relationships with failure, because what is it? What is failure to you, at this point in your life? I think that's really important.
I agree. I think it's like he talked about the numbers can make people go, and it takes you back for just a minute there. But what I love how he joked about it at the end. What a good opportunity it has been for him, failing so big, to be able to share it now, because the rest of us, may not have had issues at that kind of level. And so I think it really, but then to see the turnaround, to see how it changed for him, and how he now not only changed the situation, but used the situation itself to now help other people and to move forward with that. I think it's an amazing thing. Lori, what thoughts do you have about Miha's story?
Well, again, yes, it applies to business, and I loved that he brought relationships into it again, because how many people have failed at relationships, any kind of relationships, but especially intimate kind of relationships. And so, we can fail at those things, but it doesn't mean we stop. Like, we learn what we need to learn, we pick up, and we move on. And so, to watch somebody that has failed, like you said, those numbers seem impressive, so they catch other people's attention. But no matter what your story is about what you failed at, there's always a chance to learn from that, pick up, and move forward. And so I just think the more examples we give of that, circumstances of people failing in different ways or having things not work out for them in different areas of their lives, and then showing them being successful now, is just like, you need to ingrain that to people, that you don't stop. You pick yourself up, you learn what you need to learn, and just because you failed at something, or you thought you failed at it, or you had a bad experience, doesn't mean that the next one has to be. And so for all of us, I think trying to help people in that is really works. So it's good stuff.
Yeah, I like also what he'd said. Part of the thing was stepping back and going, has this already happened? What did I do last time? How were the outcomes? And what can I do differently this time to have a better outcome? Like, that's something that we always, like, especially in the entrepreneur space and stuff, we're always go, 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 go. We don't ever step back and go, okay, that happened before, earlier. What can I do differently now? That's going to put me on a different, better, for myself, for my business, for my family, whatever, better path. So I like that. I really enjoyed that.
Okay, last thing that I liked though was I like how he was making all these jokes. I mean, who jokes about losing 50 minutes? It really showed that he healed the emotions that was related to probably the biggest failure of his life. Like, he healed those emotions and he turned it into a gift. Right? So that's like, it's a gift now that he's sharing with all of us. I love it.
It's funny because I saw something the other day about a similar thing. It said something to the effect of, you've healed or something when you don't cry about it anymore. And for me, that doesn't hold true because I cry over everything. So whether I'm healed or not, I'm crying. So, but I get what they're saying in that when it's a little bit lighter, when the subject is something that that you can get through a conversation, you can start teaching from that story. I think that's how we know that we've moved on. Not necessarily the crying thing, because I cry all the time, but that that you can teach from it. You can joke about it. You can be. It feels lighter in the gut, like Miha talked about in the gut area there. So I think that was really cool too. Any final thoughts, Donna, about this topic?
Well, I was just sitting here thinking as I was listening to everybody talk about what they were picking up and what moved them through this story, and I thought, how cool, yet again, Jessica, that we picked a hot topic that all meshed together. Yeah. Because the language that we were using through this whole process, and I'm going, well, we just talked about that. Well, we just talked about that in the hot topic. So again, I think it's really cool how we not planning the hot topics to kind of coincide with the guests, but they are. So I thought that was kind of neat. And I do, I'm like all of you, I love the fact that he can joke about it. And Jessica, like you mentioned too, once you get to that point, which goes back to the pretending to be asleep and waking up, once you get to that point, then you can actually start finding what your niche is or what your passion is and start teaching from that point, if that's what you want to do, or coaching, or at least getting through life and building those relationships and building that passion that you have for you. So I think this was a great topic, a great guest. I mean, just a lot of amazing and wonderful information that came out of this today. I'm just blown away by the whole thing. And I'm going to probably cry, and it's going to be okay.
I know it. And I will bring this all for full circle for us. So I drove back by the same church because I wanted to get a picture of the actual church sign. And I believe I believe, I'm not saying she put the energy out there, but I'm saying Heather said that the sign's probably changed by now, Jessica. And so sure enough, I went to go drive by and the sign was changed. But you know what it says now? It just says simply, stay awake.
Oh, that's good.
That's all it said right now. So I just found that even though I could not get a picture of the sign that it was, I saw that it said that, and I thought this is just, it's perfect. Full circle moment.
Full circle. Full circle.
All right. Well, I want to say a big thank you to all of our panelists who were on today. I want to say thank you to Jamad Kelly, our intuitive life coach, for being with us today. I want to say thank you to Lori Ann Davis, our relationship specialist, and also to the fabulous Heather Clark, our declutter coach and consultant. We are so thankful that you all were on with us today. I am going to tell us, sadly, that we have come towards the end of our show, Donna.
Oh, I'm not done.
Are you not done? I'm sorry. It's just the way it is every week, Donna.
I know. It gets faster and faster each week, though.
I know it. And listen, I'm so thankful as well to Miha Matlievski for being on with us today. Make sure you guys go and check out his information. His link to his Facebook is in the description of this video. Whether you are watching on Facebook or on YouTube, the link is there for him so that you can reach out to him. And also make sure that you check out his Failures Anonymous step that he's working on now, because I think that's going to be amazing and such a huge help to so many people, especially those of us who are coming into the entrepreneur world. It's crazy. It's crazy. We need to change that relationship with failure, I think, and that's going to change a lot of things. So at any rate, it has been a great show today, and we are so thankful that you all have been on with us. And I want to make sure you check out the credits of the video when we finish up the show today, because I've got a couple notes on there of some people who have been so generous in allowing us to share this show in their communities. So make sure you check out those names and go find out more about their communities as well. And if you have a page or a group or a platform that you think that this show would be able to help your audience, let us know. And if we can share that, we will be able to give you a public shout out as well for helping us out and sharing the information for the breakthrough. So until next time, what do we have? You're going to be talking about next week's episode, right? Yes? Okay, good. So my name is Jessica Dugas, intuitive mentor and energy healer.
And I'm Donna Brown, holistic wellness practitioner, and this has been The Breakthrough. Join us next week when we have Tara Abram, meditation teacher, photographer, and interior designer guru, as she shares about her breakthrough moment with loneliness Vegas trip. That sounds very intriguing, because I thought what happened in Vegas stayed in Vegas.
Well, not anymore.
She is going to share about that next week. So we look forward to seeing you all next week, same time, same place, 12 p.m. Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you next time. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.